week one of Fantasy Finance is in the books. Some pleasant surprises, some things that were not surprising whatsoever. We'll get into all of it, throw a little bit of shade, talk a little trash, and we'll get prepared for next week. First things first, though, we need to make sure that everybody knows who is currently winning, and that would be yours truly, over 8% on the week. Bitcoin and DraftKings absolutely pulling me behind them to meteoric heights. It was a great week. I enjoyed checking it every day. Definitely rubbed it in Austin's face a little bit. We'll talk to him a little later. But guys, give me your thoughts here. How do you think it went? How are you feeling?
I guess I'll say my thoughts first. I am extremely surprised with my performance, considering that a lot of them were like, "Hey, I recognize this," or like, um, kind of. Well, okay, the only one that I had like a genuine self intuition on is the one that's not performing well, which is Cognizant. So, yeah. So I guess maybe I don't follow my own intuition on that one, but everything else is performing extremely well. Pinterest and Etsy, oh, they're those are definitely some of my top performers too.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, I think, and we talked about this last week too, right? If you're just getting started, it's never a bad idea to invest in things that you're just familiar with. It doesn't matter if you do any of the deep financial analysis, as long as you can explain what the company does, and as long as it's not so catastrophically overvalued that it has nowhere to go but down, you're probably going to be okay. And that's what we saw this week, right? What are you at? Like 7.5% almost?
7.1%.
Okay, so you broke 7% on the week, which is fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah, you're in really good shape. That's the surprise of the week. I didn't think that you would do quite that well that quickly.
Yeah, like beginning of the week I was like, okay, I'm in third place. That's kind of expected. Like Kyle was
Yeah,
like, you know, he had he had his I guess we'll let him talk about his pick, but
we'll
um
get to that. Don't worry.
yeah. But then I was like, wow, I'm slowly closing the gap, and then yeah, I'm now sitting solidly in the second place.
Alrighty. Well, definitely one to watch. You've built a lot of momentum. You're in really good shape. Now, unfortunately, we have to hit on the not so good news. Uh,
I
Kyle,
mean,
your Wall Street Bets pick of GameStop is not doing as well as we were hoping that it would.
well, I mean, I don't think any of us thought it was really gonna do well. But again, it was a principal pick. I think that if
Yeah.
big picture investing wants to, say that they are about making change, one of us should put our fake money where our mouth is. Particularly considering that the whole second iteration of this site was the idea that retail investors could band together with their money and force large companies and financial entities to do things that they wanted in the idea that
Yeah.
it benefited the public. Like, I think if none of us bought GameStop, that'd be very indicative of how we actually run this company. Like, I'm just gonna point that out. So, and I will also
No, I
point
mean,
out
I think that's a fair point. If you look at the ramifications and all of
this
the
is
narrative and the chatter around
yeah, and I mean,
what
I know that it
transpired.
was a little blown out of proportion. Like, I think Reddit probably thought it had more of, more of the cards. It was holding more of the cards than they actually were. And I think we all kind of thought that on Friday. I also was like on Friday, it's kind of unfortunate we have to put our orders in like, for open market. If I had just waited an hour, I would probably be sitting ahead of Austin even right now. So like like I was also like it's kind of bad luck that I like, but we all agreed to start at market open. Like so, yeah, I kind of knew I was gonna take a loss on this. I guess looking outside of GameStop, so I've lost 80% on GameStop, 78%. But everywhere else I'm up, so I guess that is my pleasant surprise. I've gotten double-digit returns off eBay, Shopify, and Workhorse, so that's
Yeah.
looking pretty good.
Well, and
Um,
that's the thing. Like outside of the one pick,
yeah,
your
outside of the
portfolio
one
is
pick, I
doing
think I
very
would
well.
be in second. Actually, I have
Yeah.
like like if I subtract out what my actual deficit and my my GameStop deficit is, like the positive net out of that is almost like 8%. So I'm looking actually kind of nice, but it's just I mean, like my GameStop investment also ended up being bigger than I thought it was going to be. I was originally going to put about 5% of the portfolio into it, but one of my picks ended up not existing on Investor. So, I mean, I rerouted it into Workhorse and I rerouted it into GameStop because I was like, those are my two YOLO picks. One of them so far has benefited from extra money and one of them has catastrophically failed due to extra money. So, like that happens. But, I guess, yeah, overall I'm kind of surprised that some of the picks that I made outside of, listening to the people have worked out, I guess. I thought Shopify was going to do pretty good, and then most of the gains have been because their quarterly returns were very nice, but that was my whole hypothesis, I guess, during our draft was last year. I know a lot of people have been buying stuff online, so why not pick one of the biggest e-commerce chains there are right now, so...
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, it's not exactly a surprise. We're a year into a global pandemic, and the reason that a lot of things haven't completely imploded is because online ordering and that infrastructure is in place.
Yeah, I guess another thing I'm more surprised about is TSMC really hasn't done anything, positive or negative. I mean, I think it's gotten like a couple % positive in the last week, but generally, it's just gone up and down. It's just been trading up and down, like, the day after day, I think. I actually own...
It's in a similar type of range daily, it seems like.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it has the same type of momentum as an AMD.
Yeah. Which I was surprised about, because I thought that they would have good news coming out after selling a bunch of GPUs and, people wanting them to make their products, but I guess, I don't know. Maybe there are some concerns. Maybe that money has already been dumped into the company. People have already bought in because of that. I'm not sure. We'll see, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to remember with stuff like that too. We're a week into it.
Yeah, and then
you always want to hit a home run every week, but that's not how this works.
As far as changing my positions, probably not going to. I mean, I don't think there's a point in selling GameStop at this point. Like at an 80% loss, like why take it?
Like, yeah, I mean, if you hold it,
given the fact that it is jumping all up and around still, like it theoretically could go. I mean, I'm not saying it's gonna go to the moon. Like, I think there are still people in that subreddit looking to make a lot of money, but I think it can definitely, let's say, bounce. So I mean, I think again, it's a principal pick. I might not ever sell it, even if it makes money. Like again, it's not real money, and it's kind of the idea, I guess. But
well, so let's explore that a little bit then, because it is by far one of the most compelling stories to come out of the financial markets probably ever. Like, what do we think the long-term impact of Wall Street Bets is going to be?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like people are not really investigating the issues that the people in that subreddit feel that they should be investigating. I mean, I think the long-term ramifications are Robinhood's going to look really bad for a while.
Yeah, I saw that they were in the process of buying the Super Bowl ad to
apologize. Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, man. Like, why would you do
Reminded me of that episode of South Park.
Did anyone tell you that when
the company keeps having to make commercials?
They
summon Cthulhu from the underworld.
We're sorry. We're sorry. Yeah, it's not. I mean, yeah, I don't know what they're trying to do. Like, it would be better for them to just stay out of the spotlight, but whatever.
Well, and Wall Street Bets is crowdfunding to try to buy a media spot to take it to him anyway. So even if they run that ad, I don't think it's going to go very
well. Okay, how's Wall Street Bets going to do that though? Like, you can't buy a Super Bowl ad the week of the Super Bowl. Like, I don't think that's how that works.
I don't think it airs on the Super Bowl telecast.
Okay, they want like on a local network channel. Okay.
It's a local network thing, or they'll put it on Facebook or YouTube, or
okay.
They will, if they've successfully filmed something, they will find a way to publish it.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I mean, I think I'm very curious because.
Well, I mean, what do you think the long-term ramifications are? I mean, okay, you could, like, at best, regulations happen because people spin it as like, oh, like, a bunch of retail investors were tricked by a message board into investing into something that they lost a lot. I'm sure a lot of people lost money on GameStop because, like, you know,
I'm sure they did.
Wall Street Bets is full of idiots who know that they're gonna lose money when they invest things on this, like on some of their dumb ideas, and they're okay with that. The problem was once this hit like social media and the news, there were a lot of, I think, people who, you know, I personally, from people who I had never ever talked to investing about before, who had never talked to me about stocks before, never talked to me about interest in Wall Street before, started talking to me about buying GameStop. And that's where I think the danger came in, where it's like those people who were like, we're just kind of assuming that this was, you know, to the moon or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, no chance of failure. And I admit, like, it was a good chance of success in terms of a financial bet, I guess. But, you know, like, when you're going up against entities of trillions of dollars and that don't want it to succeed, like, you know, there is a chance that it might not happen. And it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people were left holding the bag when they were like, I could have sold at 500. Everyone told me, like, 10,000 plus. And, you know, whatever, I'm sitting here at, you know, 10 shares at 300 average, and it's worth $60 now. That's not a good feeling, I'm sure, for them or whatever. Or more if they actually were, like, you know, throwing money they couldn't afford to gamble on it, which I know some people probably did, like mortgages,
Well, and
student
that's
debt,
the
whatever.
unfortunate part, right? You know, they always say never invest any money you can't afford to lose.
Well, that's the problem with, I guess, like, you know, hype.
Well, that's the problem with a lot of it, right? You know, Robinhood's hands aren't clean in the scenario either. Like, there have been numerous occasions where they've made it too easy for people to invest on margin. They've made it way too easy for people to play with money they don't have to begin with. Like, there's articles all over the place of people who have second mortgages on their house because they lost all their money trading on Robinhood.
Yeah.
Like, that's a thing.
So, I mean,
And
yeah.
so, for me, I think the most interesting component of this isn't going to be how you regulate platforms like Wall Street Bets. It's not going to be how you regulate Reddit. Regulating the internet is virtually impossible. I mean, you see people attempt it all the time. Sometimes it goes better than others. But for me, the real story is going to be how do we regulate trading platforms themselves? How do you regulate?
Well, that's what I was
how do
saying.
you
Like,
regulate Robinhood?
that's
That's
well,
where
yeah,
the interesting stuff is going to come.
that's my original point. Like, out of this,
Yeah.
the only thing that's gonna get regulated is people are gonna say retail investors lost money. We should regulate how retail investors invest, and that is the problem. Like, ultimately, people are like, I don't care. Like, the risk should be there. It's just that, you know, everyone should face the same risk, which clearly people or entities with lots of money don't face the same amount of risk. I mean, like, you know,
Yeah.
the whole point that people are upset about is that Robinhood decided to halt trading, which forced a lower price, you know, because an
Mhm.
entity with money, you know, wink, wink, handshake, you know, you need more capital, I need this to not sell. You know, like, that is the problem. So, I mean, like, yeah, you're right. They're going to regulate apps like Webull, Fidelity, you know, like Robinhood. They're gonna target, you know, they're gonna say we're gonna protect you from these dumb investments in the future to prevent you from throwing money into meme stocks like that. I'm sure that is what's gonna get spun out of it. The problem is that, like, you know, how the people feel is like, you know, we already know that there's a lot for us to lose here. Like, we know the game is rigged. Like, just make it equally, you know, just like,
Yeah. If you're gonna rig it for everybody.
yeah, I know. Like, that's not the problem. It's like, you know, it's just, if it's rigged against us, when we do hit the 20%, like, give us the 20% or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like, that. I think that is what ultimately the problem is. And, you know, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think any long-term regulation will come directly out of the event. I'm kind of curious to see if people will have kind of woken up to the idea that, you know, the stock market isn't for normal people. Like, it's not for normal people to make money. It's for where money goes to make money. So, like, you know, I guess that's what Big Picture's whole idea is that it's not accessible to the average user. Like,
No, I mean, and that's part of the reason why we built what we built, right? There are problems in the world that can be fixed by the responsible use of capital. The problem is that those issues are not being fixed and the capital is not being responsibly applied to those problems. So how do we address that? But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting for sure. I don't think this is the last we've seen of this type of behavior. I don't think this is the last we've seen of companies like, you know, Robinhood, like any of the major trading platforms, It's not the last time they're going to try to stop something from happening, and it's not the last time it's going to blow up in their face. I think the question is what happens next, and do they learn anything from that? Because I don't think they've learned anything from this at all. Retail investors have learned a lot, to your point. This is a very clear illustration that the game is rigged, and it's not rigged for you. But have the platforms and have the regulators learned anything about how to make the game more equal? That's the question, in my mind anyway. So, with that said, Kyle, you mentioned that you're not going to make any changes right now. You're riding GameStop until you can't ride it anymore.
Well, I like I said, at 80% loss, like, what is 20% more? Like, if I ride it to 0, and then if it goes up, then I have less of a loss. So,
if it comes back.
Yeah, I mean, I did think about it when it hit, like, minus, like, I think around, like, minus 40% on my initial investment after the first day. I was like, should I just sell this? But I don't know. I wanted to hold on to it at least a week to talk about it. And at this point, like, I think I should just hold on to it more. Just out of the principle. And then also, like, yeah, I was like, I could sell it, I guess, and I would have, I guess, just reinvested the money into something that looked like it was positive. But I'm not too concerned. I can lose this month. We get a new slate next month, and we can start recompeting. I might have screwed myself for the year.
3 weeks.
Might have screwed me. I still have 3 weeks, but I'm in a pretty big hole.
Like, I would almost argue that you're not, and here's why.
I don't know. If GameStop bounces
8% in a week, if Kyle can generate 7% in a week, so can you. I mean, yeah, you're down. What are you?
I mean, I did generate. That's what I was saying. I did generate like 7% in a week, and that got me to -2. That's what I'm. That's the issue, Jordan. that's the issue. Like I could generate 7% again this week, and I'll be at 5, which is good enough for still 4th place.
You're treating this as if it's in a vacuum.
Well, no,
I'm
not.
3 other people who are perfectly capable of A, losing money, or B, making moves.
A, losing money, but B, did not know. We all agreed. No one invested anything that could lose potentially. We all knew GameStop could lose me 100% on the investment when I made that on last Friday. We all openly said that. No one else's picks are like that. You could lose some money on your investment. If any of our picks floors to 0, that's not GameStop, I would say that something majorly wrong happened, like, during this month. Like, there was probably I don't more than one company that redlined at that point.
Fundamentally, it has a price evaluation. What is it, like $17 or something like that?
Oh yeah, like the actual market, the actual market value. Yeah, I mean, but as people panic sell, it could go down to 0. I mean, like it could panic. Like people, there are plenty of people probably still holding just because they're like, for the memes, and like if it actually hits 0, then they're gonna be like, what the
Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, I know for a fact there's lots of people still holding it because they do think it has upside. The question is, how much upside is it able to realize, and how does it get there? Does Wall Street Bets come back for round 2, or does GameStop actually make operational changes that drive the price higher?
No, you need the second one. Well, I mean, the first one could happen, I guess, if they think that they could make short money on it again, but you need the second one to legitimately happen for the company. I mean, I guess they're trying. They hired an Amazon CTO, AWS CTO, and
yeah, I mean,
some people have been talking about
pieces in place. It's just a question of, is it too little, too late?
They've been talking about competing, I think, in the streaming service platform. Maybe I think that could be interesting.
Oh, they got all kinds of things they're trying to do. I saw something the other day.
Well, because I think because Twitch's problem is that, like, Twitch is a huge streaming platform, but like unless you're already big on Twitch, it's hard to find you. Like that's the whole idea. So, and then Microsoft, when they went with Mixer, they were dumb and they just tried to buy all the big talent from Twitch. So like none of the small talent went from Twitch to Mixer. So like nothing happened basically. No. But I think, I don't know, if GameStop wants to try it, they're already like the local game store, right? Like they should focus on like promoting small channels, I guess, or whatever.
Well, I mean, the thing for me that would make sense, if people are already downloading games directly from the internet, can you get licensing deals in place to get into that game, right? I mean, to an extent, if you're buying stuff off of Steam, you're probably not going to go somewhere else. But if Microsoft has things on Xbox directly and Sony has things for PlayStation directly, like, they obviously have relationships in place with the companies that actually make the games. So try to put a licensing deal in place. I don't care how much it costs you. Like, I don't care what
Are you
percentage
saying
you
you
get off of each sale. But if that's the way things are going, don't keep saying, "Gee, what's a better way to sell a physical disc?"
Yeah, I think that's a
Another launch.
Yeah,
that's
it's
a
only
thing
to
of the
get you so
past.
far.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, GameStop, if you're listening, lots of advice. We'd be happy if you pay us money, and we'll help you fix all of it.
I mean, I'm sure that they're gonna go up. I mean, they just got infinite value in publicity, and a legitimately huge influx of cash was just injected into them. You know, even excluding the people like you and me who bought it, like I'm sure there were actual rich people in other, you know, hedge funds that were not shorting it that were like, yeah, well, the price is going up to $500. I'm gonna throw money at this.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I saw an article about that the other day. Like, for as much money as Wall Street Bets people made off of GameStop, hedge funds still made more.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I think at its core, people who actually use Wall Street Bets understood that too. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like they understand, like, you know, we're screwing some hedge fund managers, some of the billionaires. There are billionaires who are betting against these billionaires that are reaping in the benefits of us also, you know. Like, and then at the end of, like, you know, it's ironic now. You go to the subreddit and there's suddenly so much clarity where people are like, yeah, this was a fight between giants. You know, it was giant v giant, and Reddit was on the side as an ape, just screaming, you know, making it about them. You know, that's a lot of what I see on Wall Street Bets now, describing the situation, and I'm like, yeah, but like, where was this last week when it was like, you know, when it was like the bastion of financial freedom, essentially? Like, I'm not saying you guys are wrong, or like, you know, that you guys weren't necessarily wrong last week either. I'm just saying, like, you know, it's very interesting to see the post bias once things start happening, you know?
Absolutely.
Last week, I'm sure if you posted anything about it failing to reach 600, you would have been downvoted into oblivion and, you know, called the shell. And this week, you know, everyone's like, oh, I definitely sold at, you know, near the top. You know, everyone seems to have suddenly sold their shares near the top and, like, made money. Like, okay. No one's diamond handing here anymore. All right, sure, whatever, y'all.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a fun one to watch. That is for sure. All right, Kyle. From the position of second place, how do you feel? Are you going to make some changes? Are you gunning for the number one spot actively? Are you trying not to lose? Like, after 1 week, what strategy are we looking at?
I mean, I'm sure that if I stay the same, then maybe I don't retain the second place spot. But I'm pretty happy with my performance, considering like I have like actually zero investing experience, I guess. So,
yeah, this was literally week one of you ever actively managing some type of investment that was not your work-supported retirement plan.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think I'm pretty comfortable with just staying with what I have. Like, I guess maybe if I lose, I mean, they're all pretty constant, like, companies. Like, yes, they maybe lose a few, or like lose a bit in a day, but generally they seem to be bouncing like positively backward, like back up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm pretty comfortable with sticking with what I have currently, at least for now. Maybe I'll keep an I guess I'll keep an eye on it, and then like if things really start to like plummet, then maybe I consider more. But at this time, yeah, I think I'm pretty comfortable with what I got.
Good.
So yeah, I don't know. Maybe someone else will bounce back, but
no, I mean, I think that's what makes recapping after week one interesting. You know, investing is a long-term game, right?
Yeah.
You hear about people attempting to day trade. What you don't hear is that most of them don't do it well.
Yeah.
Like, it's very difficult to successfully invest if you're trying to maximize returns in a 5 to 7 day window. Like even a month, even 6 months, like it's very difficult. You know, the data says long term, your best bet is to buy things within some type of strategy that you believe to be solid and hold them until years have gone by, not days. So I think that's going to be the interesting thing too that we kind of have to grapple with as this goes on, right? It is a monthly contest within the confines of a yearly contest. And so how do we juggle that, and how does that influence decisions in this environment that might not have been present in an actual investing scenario? So I'm curious to see how that goes, but time will tell.
I guess, are you changing your positions at all, Jordan?
I'm not changing them. When I put all of my buy orders in, though, I didn't realize. So I put 10% effectively in everything. I loaded
so
Bitcoin a little bit more than 10%.
Yeah. But you generally
my portfolio
were
is pretty
flat.
evenly distributed.
Okay, yeah.
What I didn't realize though was that the math gave me $4,000 extra that didn't go anywhere.
Wait, how does that?
Because somehow when I put, despite the fact that the percentages added up to 100%, because of where the prices were.
Oh, you weren't able to buy full. Okay. So one of your purchases wasn't allowed to buy like partial shares or something, so you didn't actually spend all the money. Okay. Wait, that's interesting.
So I have to figure out what I'm going to do with that. I started doing some research this week on where I wanted to put it. I didn't decide on anything yet.
4 shares.
Honestly, I'm probably going to wait and see.
It's 4,000
to do anything with it. Like if I keep building a lead, I think that introduces a very different scenario versus if I start to lose, then I can deploy an additional $4,000 and try to catch up. Type of thing. So we'll see. But I know, and we'll talk to Austin later. I know he has already made a couple of transactions. Because, like I said, he doesn't like to lose, and the fact that he's in third does not sit well with him. But we'll get his motivations behind that when I talk to him a little later, because I think he's got a very different strategy at this point than the three of us do.
Okay.
Which again will make things very interesting.
Yeah, he asked me if I was gonna keep holding.
His brief exploration of the commodities market did not go well.
Oh, silver? Yeah, I mean, that was kind of interesting to me because
Wall Street bets, and that one didn't do anything.
Well, that one was interesting to me because Wall Street bets seemed very divided over silver. It seemed like some people were pushing silver, and then I also saw a lot of posts that were like, silver is not something that Wall Street bets wants. It's something that they're trying to distract us with, like, it's like a plant, like people are trying to plant.
Stick, right?
Yeah, it's to take money away from GME. I saw like a lot of that like the last couple weeks. So I was kind of like very confused as to whether or not like silver was actually being like actively traded by people. I did see a lot of people who were like also like it was like SLV versus like the physical commodity silver or whatever. So I guess there's a difference between the two. Like paper shares of silver versus owning physical silver, I guess, but I'm not sure. I guess I am not surprised that didn't work out for him given how the other pick worked, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, just because it comes up on Wall Street bets doesn't mean it's anointed to be the next greatest thing that you should buy.
Yes, I could have made some money off AMC though. That would have been nice. Oh well.
Well, and that's the interesting thing. I think lost in all of the Wall Street bets chatter, like AMC evaporated like $600 million worth of physical debt.
Yeah.
Strictly because
people
Wall
bought
Street
shares.
bets people bought up the price of AMC.
Yep. I mean, it went up to like almost $20 at one point. that was pretty nice looking. I think it's at like $7 now, but honestly, I would, yeah, I think it's worth more than $7 once COVID ends. People want to go to watch movies. Also,
yeah, I mean, I think
also
the
bad
backdrop
movies.
Of COVID, it's different. I think ordinarily with people streaming and doing all the stuff from home, it doesn't look quite as compelling. but against the backdrop of being stuck in your house for a calendar year plus,
Yeah.
I definitely think that's going to give it a boost it ordinarily would not have gotten.
Plus, TBH, all the movies that have come out since COVID started suck. Because I think studios are just waiting for theaters to open back up. So, like, that first opening, like, salvo is going to be tremendous.
Bonkers.
It's going to be tremendous.
Well, that's why they keep rescheduling the release of the
Like
20th anniversary James Bond movie.
Yeah,
or whatever.
James Bond gets moved up.
In physical theaters.
Disney keeps pushing Marvel shit back and stuff, trying to delay it. You know, it'll be bonkers.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll sustain its price after that
that's
happens, but you can probably make a lot of money right then.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a very interesting speculative play to buy it before its first full operational quarter after things reopen. But yeah, beyond that, I would be very curious to see whether or not it was able to maintain any real momentum. Going to be fun. Okay, so we have 3 people who are not going to change strategy. We have Austin, who's trying desperately not to lose. So we have a lot of interesting things to keep track of this week. Obviously, in the aftermath of the Super Bowl, I will be watching DraftKings very closely to see what happens there. I'm liking the headlines I'm reading so far about the prognostication of the amount of money that's going to be wagered on the game, now that it's legal in a lot of places. Whether or not that results in an immediate bump or a bump after their next earnings report, I'm not sure. But definitely something that I'm eagerly looking forward to.
I'm kind of curious to see after the football season ends how they keep doing too. I guess I haven't really kept. I mean, like, I'm interested in sports betting for, like, I guess semi-obvious reasons if you know me. But like, I guess, like, I'm kind of curious to see, like, is football, like, gonna be, like, the main revenue generator for them long term? I guess, you know.
Oh,
like,
I'm sure domestically it absolutely will.
Yeah, but I'm curious.
Any other sport in America that conjures that much level of
Yeah, but I guess I'm curious to see, like, how much value does, like, fantasy baseball and basketball, and then also, like, just, like, daily betting on, you know, spread basically. Like, I wonder how much that will get. And then, you know, like, as betting gets more popular, those sports will get more popular, not because people want to watch them, because people want to bet on them. So, you know, we'll see.
Well, that's the thing.
We'll see.
You talk about sports that are struggling to attract people as fans.
Baseball.
Now that you can bet on them, I think that's definitely going to help sports like baseball get people interested in watching. Not because they actually care about a team or who wins or who loses. They care about the money they bet on the game.
Very true.
But within the confines of a TV contract or an advertising deal, baseball doesn't have to care. So, going to be interesting. But yeah, I mean, in terms of sports betting in the United States, it's football, and it's not even going to be close. Internationally, though, very different story.
Well, I mean, internationally, you have, like, rugby, cricket, and soccer, or football competing. Like, those will all dominate.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, the Premier League and all that stuff is right in the middle of a season.
Yeah.
I think internationally, right as American football ends and you start to lose momentum, you're going to pick it up elsewhere. It's just a question of how much do you pick up from these other sports that are number one in their respective countries. So, lots of things to watch there. I'm very curious to see how well that goes or how not well it goes. We'll find out. But, yeah, that's going to be what I'm watching this week in particular. Any closing thoughts from anybody before we wrap it up?
I don't think so for me.
No?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, all in all, a great week one. I'm very curious to see how things change in another week. We'll be at the midway point, too, so I think there will be some strategic adjustments that might be required if you don't want to lose. But again, anything can happen. It's the market. So thanks for watching. We will catch you all again next week with Week 2 recap and looking ahead to the end of February and the beginning of March. See ya.
For sure. Take
All
care.
right.
Get the early results I wanted, but I saw that with Kyle Fan, who's in second. Etsy was doing well for him, so I picked up Etsy instead of Abbott just for a little bit more high growth.
Okay, so basically, you looked at two small segments of your portfolio that were underperforming what you had expected in the short term. You looked at what was working for myself and Kyle, and you made moves to try to mirror those successes and cut that dead weight.
That's correct.
Okay. Nice. I haven't checked now that markets are open this morning. How's that going for you?
It's actually going quite well so far this morning.
Yeah.
But
Well, you're up to 5.2. Too bad I'm at 11.5.
my best performers, actually, even though I picked up Ripple late, I'm up over 13%. Square, I'm up nearly 20%. And then Expedia, I'm up about 15%.
So really, the same trends that we were talking about yesterday hold true here. Most of the picks you made are actually performing quite well. It's just a question of what are the things that are holding you back and what are you going to do about it.
Right, and it was Abbott Laboratories and
Yeah.
Silver that was holding me back. I think with Silver, I don't know the exact number, but I want to say I was down somewhere between 4 and 6%. And just slowing me down.
Yep.
So
I gotcha. We were talking about this yesterday too. It's an interesting contrast to the attitudes of the other three of us who are in a position where, like, even Kyle, who bought some GameStop, like, we all know how poorly that's going. At this point, he's of the opinion, I'm just going to hold it. I don't care if it loses 20 more percent because it could bounce. You, on the other hand, have already said, things aren't going the way that I want them to. I am actively going to start trading. I'm either going to lock in losses or chase higher gains because I don't have time to hold and see where this goes.
right, I even told Kyle too. You should drop GameStop, but he didn't want to. So
No, he doesn't want to.
yeah.
I mean, at this point, I think he may as well wait and see if it bounces, just because, like, I think he said he was down like 73% or something. So
Yeah. But overall, I think he's only down about 1.5%. So
yeah, I think he's only down 1.5% or something like that.
yeah, overall he's not doing poorly.
No, and I mean that was the thing that I talked about with them too. Was like, for this being the first time that either of you have actively traded anything that's not linked to your like employer supported 401k, this is going quite well for you,
Yeah.
which is remarkable, but very cool to see.
But you know what Mark Cuban said? When the entire market's doing well, everyone's a good trader.
Very true. Very true.
So maybe there'll be some activity this month or next month, and we'll get to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, we're hitting a very interesting time in the year, or we're at least moving in that direction. I mean, we're still in one of the longest bull runs in history. Obviously, the whole... I don't know if you put much faith in the sell in May and go away type of folks, but that window will be coming up here soon. Yeah, there's a lot of very interesting things going on in the world right now that could really bring about a lot of things that not everyone is prepared for, I think. But we'll see.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, what's going on with you? What's doing well for you, other than Bitcoin? Top ones.
Bitcoin's obviously doing very well. DraftKings was doing very well for me this week. I'm waiting to see post-American Super Bowl what happens with that. I was hoping to get an immediate boost because of the amount of money that people bet on that game. I don't see it yet, so I'm wondering if it's going to be delayed. I'm wondering if I'm going to have to wait until earnings. I may not even get it. We'll see. That was the hope there. It's down a little bit today. But that's up almost 12%. Bitcoin obviously is up 31.5%. And then Alaska Air Group was the other one that's doing really well. So those undervalued assets, man. If you know when to buy undervalued assets, it's always a good idea.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I feel like that's a difficult thing to find right now. But if you know where to look, and you can attest to this, you've been trading longer than I have. Like, there's always an undervalued asset somewhere if you know what to look for.
Yeah, that's right. But I actually saw this morning that Elon Musk, or Tesla at least, bought
Yep.
$1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. So
Yep.
that will be interesting. And I think that honestly, it might even give it more stability because people would use it more as a commodity and less of a high risk, high reward trade.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with Bitcoin, as far as I'm concerned, I look at it more as a potential long-term store of value because of the widespread consumer trust that has been put into it as a platform, not as a transactional tool. Like, personally, for me, I would never use Bitcoin as actual currency. It's worth too much. Like, you used to hear back in the day of, like, people buying pizza with Bitcoin. Like,
Right.
now that it's worth $44,000 a piece, or whatever it's at, like, that's stupid. You would never buy a pizza with a part of a Bitcoin. Like, that makes zero sense.
Right.
Like, if it were expensive in US dollars, maybe that's one thing, but it's like $10 US, why would you not just spend the $10 US?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's me, of course. I am not professing to be a Bitcoin expert by any stretch of the imagination, so I'm sure others have different feelings, but that's me.
I remember a couple of years ago, I was watching an interview with, I think it was the CEO or CFO of Visa, and he was being asked questions about the future of Bitcoin and how it's used, and he says, according to him, he said we're just not in that time yet to be using it, and he said, for an example, if you're a hotel, and because Bitcoin is so volatile, when you book a room with Bitcoin, are you paying at the time you check in, at the time you check out, at the time you make the booking? Value of
Yep.
it's going to fluctuate so much that it's not fair to the hotel.
No, and I mean, in any type of transaction, that's a difficult thing to pin down. Like, what is its value at the precise time of transaction? I understand that transactions are processed very quickly, but it's still a logistical issue, not necessarily for Bitcoin, but for merchants who would want to try to use it.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I think as a long-term store of value, it probably has a more well-defined market niche, albeit a very large niche at this point. I mean, it's not a niche really; it's a mainstream option for people. But yeah, I don't really see the transactional side of it coming into play at this point. Tesla people, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they did their homework. Well, that might be giving them too much credit. I don't know if they did their homework or not before they bought all that Bitcoin. But even if people don't use it to purchase vehicles, if it goes up, oh darn, doesn't matter if people buy cars with it or not. Yours are still worth more. Yeah, I mean, it's moving in that direction. There's no other way to put it. Like, while the nature of its value may be derived on speculation, pretty much every currency globally is linked, the value is all on some type of faith or speculative based system. I mean, the US hasn't been on the gold standard for a long time, so we're not really in a position to talk. Gonna be interesting though.
Yeah. Well, are you going to make any? Do you foresee yourself making any changes this week?
Well, I was telling the guys yesterday, when I put in my positions, the weighting, like percentage-wise, added up to 100% of the portfolio.
Yeah.
But when all of the orders went through, I somehow ended up with $4,000 left over.
Okay.
So I'm doing some looking at a couple of different things. I'm not really sure if I'm going to buy anything right now or not. I think I'll treat it more as if I continue to pad my lead, I'll probably hold it and really look for something that fills a need my portfolio doesn't currently have. If you all start to catch up, then I'll probably roll it out in an effort to get my lead back. So, some actual investing strategy, some gamesmanship. We'll see what happens.
Okay, sounds good.
Any other moves for you, I guess, planned this week as you're trying to catch up to the rest of us?
I think I'm gonna let it sit this week. I'm feeling quite confident that everything here will continue in the direction I want it to. So yeah, I'm just gonna let it sit. I mean, I'm in a comfortable third. I mean, there's a big gap between third and fourth.
Yeah.
And I'm not too far behind Kyle Fan. So I'm in a comfortable third.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, too. Like, it's very difficult to treat investing as a short-term mechanism for capital gains. Like, all of the data is buy and hold, or buy and do this, or buy and do that, but it's over a very long period of time. So I think one of the interesting things about what we're doing here is, in an optimal scenario, you're obviously not making moves this often. However, in an effort to teach people, in an effort to make finance a more accessible topic of conversation, we're doing things in a way that may not necessarily be a sound thing to do with your actual money. But in a simulated environment, it's fine because it allows us to explore and talk about things without actually having financial consequences.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm going to be really interested to see how that goes, especially as we try to balance the monthly contest in the context of the yearly contest. You know, the more months we do this, the more people start to have established positions, 1 through 4. How does that change what we're doing, too?
Right.
So, going to be interesting to watch, that's for sure.